You mentioned the border, Deborah. As governor of the state of Texas, how would you approach illegal immigration?
You know, the wealth of a nation or of a state is in its people, and we certainly need to do what we can to enforce legal immigration and to welcome legal immigration. But illegal immigration creates a lot of victims. The illegal immigrant is a victim, and his children are certainly victims of a second-class citizenship almost. The people of Texas are victimized in having to pay the cost for the social incentives that we provide to people who live in the state of Texas. So illegal immigration is clearly illegal. We have got to get back to enforcing our laws. They ought to be enforced consistently and uniformly. The border has got to be closed, and we have got to stop the social incentives to that.
The state of California, if you look at some of their budget crises, and they are the most broke state in the union, so far as I can tell, their medical communities, their emergency rooms, their healthcare system, and their education system appears to me to be in the process of being destroyed by illegal immigration. Are we facing that here?
Very first question I asked a retired Texas Supreme Court judge, local hospitals, local communities ought to be deciding how and when they provide charity care in their communities. We have closed almost every for-profit and private hospital system along the Texas Gulf Coast as a result of being overrun by and forced to provide charitable services, not just to illegals, but certainly to illegal immigrants, but certainly to a large percentage of illegal immigrants. That has got to stop. The most compassionate thing that we can do as Texans is close that border and promote a legal process of immigration.
Let me ask you about a couple of other quick things, because I do want to go to the telephones here fairly soon. Our number is 1-866-895-6442. Our guest is Debra Medina, www.medinafortexas.com. She'll be a candidate on the Republican ticket for the governor of Texas. Chip insurance is something that comes up all the time, and I look at Obamacare and where we're going in this country and the possibility of nationalizing our health care. And I look back at chip insurance, which so many people and so many legislators continue to want to expand. What do you see chip insurance as? Do you see it as a safety net? Do you see it as welfare for the middle class? Do you see it as an encroachment of our freedom and redistribution of wealth? Or do you see it as simply a health issue?
First of all, I think we have to talk about the role of government. And I see health care as something that ought to be provided by the family and by the church and the community and not by the government. We've doubled Health and Human Services budget in Texas since 1999 from $17 billion a year to $32 billion a year in the state of Texas. And yet we haven't heard people saying, oh, yeah, everything is fixed. We continue to hear the mantra that we have a lot of uninsured in Texas. I do medical billing for a living. Certainly there are lots of problems with the health care system. I think Republicans 2 sessions ago attempted to fix some of that in limiting that benefit to a short-term benefit, a 6-month benefit. Unfortunately, in the last session, we saw it go back to a full year. There are lots of opportunities to improve on that process in Texas, and we'll be building a team of free market folks to restore some free market principles to health care, and I believe the services will improve and the costs can be driven down dramatically.
All right, let's talk about transportation very quickly. Rick Perry threw his entire weight behind the Trans-Texas corridor. Some people like it, some people don't like it. The whole idea of public-private partnerships in toll roads is controversial. Debra Medina, where do you stand on the Trans-Texas corridor and public-private consortiums?
We've got to protect eminent domain, private property in Texas. We've got to do some things to clean up eminent domain here. The Kelso decision at the federal level has hurt us. The governor, I just blogged about that at debramedina.us this morning, has vetoed a bill that would have prevented TxDOT from using our tax dollars to lobby us and beat us over the head into submission, and yet the governor vetoed that very bill. passed one, incredibly, that rewards the losers on bids. The losing proposals, losing bidders can now be compensated for submitting bids to TxDOT. Just incredible abuse of taxpayer funding. Transportation funding in Texas, while we talked a minute ago about health care doubling, transportation has actually gone down. The amount of funding available to transportation in Texas during the governor's tenure has actually decreased. We've got some real problems there. Transportation is certainly one of those fundamental things that the state government needs to be responsible for.
All right. The Trans-Texas Corridor, as it was proposed, with the Centra-Zachary partnership, with the 2 football fields wide or whatever it was, going parallel to Interstate 35, is that part of the Debra Medina vision, or is that something you would want to kill?
That's bad policy on so many fronts. It's hard to talk about. You know, there's private property issues there. There's state sovereignty issues there. There's international globalization issues there. Just to begin, the litany of the problems with that bill, it needs to be dead and buried. Rick, you're going to see a lot of discussion coming out of the Medina campaign about restoring the free market, and absolutely education is one of those areas where we need to look at every opportunity that we can to put some free market choice back into the school system. The monopoly of the public schools, the ever-increasing cost, and the continuing decline in the outcomes there are again harming all Texans. We are doing a disservice to our kids by not providing them the opportunity for better education, and I believe free market there is what we need to look at.
On the education front, some of the things that make some of us suspicious of the public school system, of course, are whole language and education fads and self-esteem and rainforest math and all of these things that just drive you nuts. But the one that probably gets my goat the most, and I want to see what you think of it, I would ban it in a heartbeat if I could, and that's bilingual education.
I think that the Republican Party has had a pretty strong position on that for some time. Again, it's one of those things that's held out as something that's helpful, and the reality and the studies show that it, in fact, just holds people back. We have got to focus on teaching education and making that the official language of the state of Texas. We have to, I think, absolutely promote bilingualism. We do a lot of work with Latin and Central America and Hispanic countries, and so being able to speak a second language is certainly a skill that ought to be encouraged. But education needs to be predominantly in English. You've got to learn that first. If you've done any international business, you know that that English is the language of business, and we're not helping our kids by allowing them to not be fluent in English.
All right, so total immersion then for Spanish-speaking children. Throw them into an English class, and I'm assuming they would have some instruction in English, but basically total immersion as they voted to do in California. That is certainly my understanding of the best methodologies that are out there. But again, I believe we've got to assemble a team of people who are going to kind of peel that education onion back and be willing to look at all of the options available to us. It is the method that I believe has the most objective evidence and support for it.